Hello and welcome to the ScatterVolt channel, and today I have two very excellent builds for you guys today who are on a tight budget this holiday season for your next gaming PC. Those being my $300 and $400 gaming PC. Now, if you guys are asking yourself the question, are these builds too good to be true? Then get that thought out of your head right now, because these builds are legit and they are actually some of the best really low-end cheap builds that I've ever configured. For the first time, I'm actually pretty comfortable putting out these low-end gaming PCs, especially my $300 one, because I've done a lot of research and I'm very confident in these gaming PCs. So confident, as a matter of fact, that not only did I have to cut any corners when it came to configuring these gaming PCs, but also from doing some research, I'm pretty sure that these builds are going to be able to run Battlefield 1 at pretty good settings at 1080p at a pretty decent frame rate. So that's how confident I am in these gaming PCs. And to be honest, they're just regular gaming PCs, just scaled down to a really low price point. So I'm going to go ahead and list out the pros and cons of each computer so you guys can have a good idea of what you're paying for. So let's get into the builds. Anyway, so real quick, if you enjoy watching my videos, make sure to click that notification bell button right next to the subscribe button of the channel so you guys can get instant updates on when I upload videos, because for the next few months, you guys will be seeing a lot more videos than usual due to my Christmas break and all that. So definitely click that button if you want to see when my videos come out the instant they upload onto YouTube. So for the first build on this list, which is the $300 build, I like to call this the WonderBuild, because for some reason it actually does extremely good for its price, and it's still considered a gaming PC because it still has a dedicated graphics card, a dedicated processor, a solid storage solution, a solid case, and a well-made power supply, and a high-quality motherboard for its price. For this build, you're going to be expecting a Intel Celeron G3900 dual-core processor, an AsRock H110M-HDS micro ATX motherboard, 4GB of G-Skill NT series RAM, a MSI GTX 1050, an EVGA 430W 80+ efficiency power supply, and for the case, a Fractal Design Core 1000. And all of this is only for about $319. So starting off with the pros, let's go ahead and address the GTX 1050 in this build, because that's going to be the main driving force for this $300 gaming PC. So right now it is rated as the #1 highest performance rated graphics card for its price, beating out the RX 460 and even the popular RX 470, which was the title holder of the best price to performance graphics card. So just considering that it already managed to beat out the RX 460 for the same price, and let's just take into fact that the RX 460 was about the same price of the GTX 1050, it already had some very solid performance at a really low price, and just seeing that the 1050 already beats that for the same price just shows how much of a value card this is for its price for running any sort of games. And if you are doubting me on the performance of this graphics card, then just check out some benchmarks of the 1050 in action. It is definitely a formidable card. It's about between a 950 and a 960 for much less in terms of cost. So the 1050 is going to be a huge deal bargain for you people who are looking into getting this gaming PC. And as I pointed out later, this is still technically a legit gaming PC. I didn't have to bonk out for an APU that has, a CPU and a GPU inside of it. This still has a discrete CPU and GPU along with a full-on mid tower that's still sort of high quality, since it is a Fractal design case. It still has a pretty large hard drive, which is 500GB, which should be enough for pretty much any sort of gaming PC. And even if you did want more, the 1TB option is only about $10 more. And pretty much there's only one con to this gaming PC, which I will address later, but this is still considered a legit gaming PC. I wouldn't make any sort of doubts about it. Now, this isn't exactly a con, but I want to address all you people who are doubting the Celeron G3900 that is in this build. So I'm going to go ahead and show some benchmarks on screen for you guys who are maybe curious as to see how well a GTX 950 and a G3900 compare up and do in modern 2016 day gaming. Now, yes, I do understand that the G3900 is at a pretty low clock speed, but as you can see from these benchmarks, it's not doing that bad of a job of running these games. Now, take note that these benchmarks are with a GTX 950, which is slower than the GTX 1050. So basically, take the averages of the G3900 running at 2.8 GHz and bump them up a bit in terms of frames per second. Now, lastly, the last thing I want to address in this PC is that it does have 4GB of RAM, but thanks to a recent study done by TechSpot just not a few days ago, actually, the myth of having 4 gigabytes of RAM being a terrible option for PC gaming is actually busted. As you can see from these benchmarks, 4 gigabytes of RAM still does a pretty good job of running games. You're going to have a slight decrease in frames per second. So as you can see, 4 gigabytes of RAM on this gaming PC isn't going to completely destroy it, but when it comes to very intensive computing applications like rendering video files or 3D models or even streaming, that's when the extra gigabytes of RAM are going to come in handy whenever you upgrade to like 8 gigabytes or 16 gigabytes of RAM. But for the most part, if you're just going to be doing gaming on this PC, 4 gigabytes of RAM for this $300 gaming PC should be enough. And next up we have my $400 build, which is pretty much the $300 build, but just more beefier. So this is sporting an Intel Core i3-6100, an AsRock HDS H110M micro ATX motherboard, 8 gigabytes of RAM, a 1TB Western Digital Blue hard drive, an EVGA 430 watt power supply, the same MSI GTX 1050 as featured in the last build, and the Fractal Core Design 1000. Now, for the most part, this is the same thing as the $300 gaming PC, but the extra $100 is going to be spent on a much more powerful processor rather than a more powerful graphics card. Because for the future of your gaming PC, I want to leave you guys with a solid foundation. So if you guys decide to upgrade to the next like GTX 1160, that you're not going to be bottlenecked with that Intel Celeron G3 900. So with that i3, there shouldn't be that much of bottlenecking going on from my predictions, but if you were to keep with that G3 900 Celeron, I'm pretty sure there would be some pretty serious bottlenecking. So the extra $100 is going to be going towards a much more powerful CPU. And also, that CPU is definitely going to show when it comes to gaming. The i3 has a massive advantage, a massive FPS boost over the Celeron, as you can see from these benchmarks, and you're definitely going to enjoy that, especially for a $400 gaming PC. Also, not to mention, just to make you guys feel more secure if you weren't, this has 8 gigabytes of RAM and a 1TB hard drive just to fill out the rest of the price range for this $422 gaming PC. Now, the only con I could possibly bring up for this gaming PC is that unlike the last one, this has a 430 watt power supply, which is enough for this system, but if you were planning to upgrade like to a much higher graphics card or a much more higher end processor, you might need to upgrade the power supply with that to support the wattage needed for those newer and more power consuming products. But for the most part, you should be fine with this base 430 watt power supply. Anyways though, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Make sure to like, favorite, subscribe and all that. And this is the ScatterVolt channel signing out.